Is it time for you to do your first triathlon? On today's video, what we're going to talk about is the 4 most popular distances in triathlon, the basic gear you're going to need, what level of coaching you might need for each one, and the budget that you may have to compete in your first race. So stay right here because I'm going to bring you some really great information. The first distance we're going to cover is the sprint distance. This is the most popular distance of all the races. You're going to see this as an entry level, all the way up to professional level, will race this distance. What is a sprint distance? Well, your swim is basically going to be somewhere between a 400 meter up to an 800. Most of them come in around 600. The bike is going to be 9 miles, about 15K, up to about 15 miles, which would be about 25K. I haven't seen any longer than that. And generally, you don't see any shorter than that. They're still called a sprint race. The run, 5K. But a little sibling to this is called the super sprint. You will see this in some races as an entry level, and that's quite often in a pool. The bike, 5 to 10 miles, and then a 1.5 mile to 2 mile run. Now, what gear are you going to need for a sprint race? Well, first off, you're gonna need a bike. You might have seen a lot of these bikes at these races. You could spend $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 on a bike, but no, you don't need that in a sprint race. You can race just about any type of bike as long as it's safe, as long as you can make the distance. That includes the expensive triathlon bike. It could be a road bike with clip-on aero bars. It could be a mountain bike, or it could just be your plain old beach cruiser. You're gonna need a helmet. The helmet has to be safe, it needs to be in good working order when it comes to the chin strap, and it needs to be CPSC approved. Just about every helmet that you can find at your bike shop will fit that bill. The next thing you're gonna need is eye protection. You have to have glasses on, something to protect your eyes. These are Rock Bros. There's a link down in the description for all of the products that I use if you're interested in finding out a good quality sunglass, inexpensive price. You're also going to need swim goggles. Swim goggles are necessary. You got to be able to see where you're going. Very inexpensive. You can find those online. Again, there's links below, or you can find them at your local sporting goods or triathlon shop. You're going to need a good quality pair of running shoes. Don't skimp here, folks. Don't go out and buy a $25 pair of running shoes at a big box store. Spend the money, buy the good shoes, get a run gait check, make sure you're not going to get injured by your shoes. Also, equip them with elastic shoelaces. That'll help you get them on and off easy in transition. And last but not least is a triathlon kit. What do I mean by that? The minimum would be a pair of triathlon shorts like these. They've got minimal padding in there, so you have some padding on the bike, and then you'll be able to run in them. You're also able to swim in them. You do one set of gear through the whole race. You also would need a triathlon top. This is not 100% necessary. You can just wear for your first few races a moisture wicking t-shirt. That'll get you through the race just fine. When it comes to coaching for a sprint race, this is where you really need some sort of guidance, but not necessarily a full-time coach. What I have available to you is a 10-week for $10 sprint triathlon training plan. You can email me to buy this plan at this email address here, or it's down in the description below. The next distance we're going to talk about is the Olympic distance, also known as a standard distance, and in some cases a 5150. There's 2 different styles of Olympic distance racing. One is the draft legal style that you will see at the Olympics. Most often you're going to see a non-draft legal Olympic distance race. What does it mean by non-draft legal? You are not allowed to get within 3 bike lengths of the person in front of you as you're riding the bike. If you get inside that quote draft zone, you can get a penalty. And in the last Olympic distance race I was in, I saw 3 guys get a penalty for drafting as they flew by me as a group and then got caught by the officials. Now, what is an Olympic distance race? Well, your swim is going to be 0.93 miles or 1.5K. Your bike is going to be 24.8 miles, which is a 40K bike. And your run is 6.2 miles or a 10K run. This race, you have to be in a little better condition than you would be for a sprint race, which is going to be about an hour to an hour and a half race. This is going to be about a 2 hour and 20 minute race if you're quick, 3-hour and 30-minute race, maybe even as long as a 4-hour race. For coaching, yeah, you might want to look into a coach for this distance race, maybe a one-time, one-race coaching system, or I do offer a 12-week, $15 Olympic distance training plan that assumes you can already do a sprint distance. Email address here, or the email address is in the links below. You might also hear of a distance called an international distance. This is kind of like a catch-all distance. Anything that's in the range of an Olympic distance but might have a shorter swim. I've seen an 800-meter swim. I've seen them ride a bike distance of 15, 18, 20 miles, or as long as 24, 26 miles, and then run a 10K. As far as gear goes, gear is exactly the same as in a sprint race, except that mountain bike or that beach cruiser just is not going to cut it. You're not going to make time cutoffs if there are any on that type of a bike. So that road bike, add a set of clip-on aero bars, or an entry-level triathlon bike will help you get through this distance race. Our next distance we want to talk about is the 70.3, or better known as the Half Ironman or the HIM. But if you're getting value from this video, drop down below, give me a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm know to spread this out to more people who might be in the same situation you're in and needing to know triathlon distances. What is a 70.3? It's a swim of 1.2 miles, a bike of 56 miles, and a run of 13.1 miles. This is a very difficult distance. It's the first of the really harder distances that you have to really work on. It takes 4 to 6 months of training for this to really be ready for half Ironman distance. When it comes to your bike, I do suggest at this point that you just totally forget about anything other than a minimum of a road bike with clip-on aero bars, or an entry-level tri-bike, or better. Now you're going to want to add a little bit more gear, like a deep wheel set. You can buy these, or you can rent them right at the events. Now when it comes to your helmet, this is where you might want to upgrade from a road bike helmet into something like either a long tail aero helmet, if you're able to hold the aero position for a long period of time, or maybe one of the newer looking aero helmets with the shield. These helmets are a shorter tail helmet. This one happens to be by Kodo Modus, very aerodynamic with a lot of airflow. Now, you're definitely going to want to look into a higher quality tri-suit. This is where you want to look into one that you can wear from the hotel room in the morning to the hotel room in the afternoon. Generally, 70.3 does not have a changing tent. You might also want to upgrade for the swim to a wetsuit if it's going to be a wetsuit legal race, or a swim skin if it's not. Coaching, this is where it comes into a better experience with a coach. You can do this on your own. You can do this with a training plan. But when it comes to 70.3 training plans, that's like taking a rock, throwing it into the ocean, and having it land on a target that you put on the bottom. You might come close, but you don't know exactly which training plan is going to work best for you. And a trained coach will make the adjustments needed to get you to have the best experience possible in this type of race. Well, you've seen this one on TV, folks. You've seen the Ironman World Championship from Kona, Hawaii. You have seen these guys do this long race in under 8 hours, but this long race is available to you also. The Ironman distance, 140.6, the Mac Daddy of them all. History of this: the distance is a 2.4 mile swim, was the distance of an open water swim race that they held every year on Oahu in Hawaii. Bike of 112 miles. That was a bike race held also in Oahu that circumvented the whole island. And the run was the same as the Honolulu Marathon, 26.2 miles. They got together in the early 80s. I think it was like 13 people started that first race. Now they have to limit it to 3,300. This year they're going to jump it to a 2-day race, with the women running on Thursday, the men running on Saturday, to make it to where they can have even more competitors, to where you're going to see 5,000-6,000 people competing in that race. But is that the only Ironman? No. There are 72 Ironman distance races. Challenge puts on the Iron Distance race. Many local promoters put on Iron Distance races. There's a lot of choice in that distance. Again, as far as the bike goes, I suggest at this point you really look into the aero advantages of a triathlon bike with the deep wheels, aero helmet, the high quality tri-suit. On a Ironman distance race, there is a changing tent. A lot of people will change into running gear. You saw Lionel Sanders do that this year and run his way all the way up into second place. And this is the level where you have to learn how to ride these races. This race is a definite coach needed race. And this is something that I specialize in, the first timers and the people who are really trying to learn how to do Ironman racing. That brings us to a budget. What's it going to cost you to do this type of racing? Right here is where you need to go. Click on this video and it will go through all of the gear you're going to need and the prices that I found. Check it out right here. This is Coach John. Boom! I'm out.